right, we have nice representation here, Malaysia and Nepal. Let's see what other parts of the world are joining today. And maybe without further ado, we can go through the next slide, please, Lewis. In fact, we can go straight to the next one as well, as I'm hoping people know that you've come here to learn about metadata and our participation reports. Okay, so today we'll talk about a little bit about your role in the Research Nexus. So we'll cover membership obligations, some basics about what Research Nexus is and why it's important for the entire scholarly ecosystem. And then we'll also, and in fact, most of the session will take to talk about participation reports. I'm very excited because it's the first time I'm going to be demonstrating the new version of the participation reports, as they have been relaunched towards the end of last year and have new, hopefully useful functionality for you. And then we'll open for questions from you, so that we can help you best find ways to complete your metadata, if indeed you find any gaps, because it might be that you're already doing all the things you could be doing in terms of capturing rich metadata for the Research Nexus. All right, Turkey, Greece, Cameroon, and so we can now take off to the next slide. In fact, we can probably, yeah, we can go through to the next one as well, Lewis, please. So I very much hope that you are aware, but this is a quick reminder that as a Crossref member, you have the obligation to register unique identifiers, our DOIs, for each item that you publish. And in addition, you are also obliged to provide a rich metadata record for each of those items. You also need to display your DOI on a unique landing page for that published item. And you keep the metadata record associated with this DOI up to date, which means that it is meant to be functioning and providing accurate information about this said item. Okay, we can move on. So what metadata can you include? It starts with the kind of basic bibliographics, like the titles, dates, author names, but also abstracts. Location URL is important because that's how your DOI, which is also your basic metadata, makes it connected and actionable on the web. And that's the most important thing about persistent identifiers, is that they are persistent but also actionable, so that they are DOI is a link on the web, and it only works if the URL in your record is up to date. If you find yourself some DOIs that are not currently working, not resolving properly, that is the first place I would advise to take a look at, to see if the location URL on that DOI record is correct. Then we go to things like full text URLs for text mining or similarity check if you're using that service. This is particularly important for, well, obviously similarity check for those who are using the service, but text mining is most important for those of you who are not, or by default, having open access HTML available on the web. So if you want more discoverability for automated tools, then text mining links are one way of achieving that. Crossmark, if you're using that service, where you can provide updates about retractions and corrections. Relationships such as versions, translations, data references, and citations. And we have an exciting news, because there are some relationships that can be now captured with our new metadata manager. So if anybody is interested, you can ask that question later, and we'll be able to, or at least we'll try to explain how you can capture some of those relationships even with our own metadata manager now. Also provenance, so who is the publisher, funder, or steward of the information in the DOI. Funding information is increasingly growing in importance. The funders are becoming more aware or interested in automating their workflows and to be able to support your authors and to be able to meet the mandates from the funders. Providing funder metadata is becoming more increasingly important in your metadata. So I would encourage you to consider um, either changing your workflows if you don't capture that at the moment, or if you do capture it, to kind of make sure that this information is correctly provided in your metadata, because it is going to be more important over time as well. And obviously contributor and affiliations information. So beyond the author names, you can also capture ORCID IDs. And for affiliations, you can provide the ROR IDs as well. Those are preferred because they are available, allow us to disambiguate, and anybody using the metadata to disambiguate the actual author and the actual affiliation in the myriad of your John Smiths and abbreviations standing for various different institutions in science. All right, we can go to the next one. So this is an example. As you can see, this is how it looks like when you look at JSON results for an item. Here you can see an article about Crossref as a sustainable source of community-owned scholarly metadata, which obviously I encourage you to take a look at anyway. But you can see that this has been provides an abstract that increases discoverability of the article. It also provides the DOI here in the metadata, which is just a number here, but obviously is displayed as a link in the actual landing page of the article, which you can obviously take a look at yourselves. And this has been published by the MIT Press. You can see the update policy, which can be used then for crossmark should there be any updates on the publication. And you can see the organization's prefix as well, which provides provenance of that article. And you can see page numbers and timestamps for the different parts of the process of that as well. And so all of that rich metadata that I've just discussed allows us to weave what we call kind of this rich and reusable network of relationships that connect different actors and people, organizations, as well as things and the things that they do within the ecosystem, so the actions. And providing transparency for the scholarly process and for the scholarly record that the global community can build on forever for the benefit of society as well as scholarship. And we call this network a research nexus. As you can see, there is a variety of different things that can be captured and that we have the ambition to capture. Some of this is already possible, and other elements of this network we are still working on enabling. But you will be able to see that many of those are already possible with the current functionality in Crossref, and you can make those things possible and available for the community. And if we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see that this is important because there are so many other tools that are already relying on Crossref metadata for pretty much the daily functioning of the scholarly ecosystem. So anything from manuscript tracking by, say, the publishers, but also hosting content, bibliographic management by everybody involved, including things like the bibliographic management tools, but also, and that allows library discovery, for example, but also making recommendations, providing metrics, annotations, and or even author profiling. Also specialist databases, as well as collaborative authoring and reading tools, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, to make your content discoverable, visible for others, to provide kind of for your authors the visibility that they desire for their own career progression and the development of their own science. And potentially also to provide signals of trust and compliance for your authors with funders' mandates, but also with the best practice in the in the scholarly process and ecosystem in terms of what and how science is shared. That's why providing rich metadata for your content is of kind of great importance and impact for your publications. So this leads us to, okay, if we're meant to provide rich metadata, how can we ensure over time that this is the case, and how can you also improve your metadata over time? One of the tools that Crossref is providing in that area is our participation reports tool. And you can see the example here on the screen. And I think, Louis, I will start sharing my screen right now. So I will replace the sharing option now. Entire screen now. You don't want to see that mess. We'll see just the participation report. And Louis, if you can provide the link in the chat now, that would be helpful because people can follow us along. So this is our participation report tool. If some of you have used it before, you can see that this has changed ever so slightly. One of the small but potentially impactful changes is the fact that you can now see it in the night mode, which for people who have certain oversensitivity to light, like myself, is quite an important thing. Gives you less migraine. That's what it is there to do. And so, but the rest of it is actually relatively familiar. So you can find a Crossref member, which could be yourself, or it could be anybody else that you're interested in looking up their performance in terms of metadata completeness. And you can see how they fare. So let's start with eLife. And as you can see here, there is a lot of things that you can find out on the at the first glance. So first of all, here you would see different types of content that particular member is publishing. So you can see journal articles, and you can browse those by journals, although actually in eLife's case is a bit boring because they only have the one journal. So all of the articles are ending up in the eLife journal. But they also publish preprints, and you can see that there are also metadata elements here for the preprints. We will spend most of the time today talking about journal articles. However, as you can see, the participation report allow you to look at a variety of different content types that you might have, and you can decide later if you want to put some emphasis or effort into completing the records for different types of content that you might be publishing. So those are the types of content. You can also see that you can change between current records, which is the latest full 2 calendar years. So at the moment, that would be all of 2024, sorry, and 2025, plus the remainder of the 2026 right now, which is only the few days, a couple of weeks. And you can also see the back record, which is everything outside of the current record, so everything older than those 2 years. Or you can see records for the all time and how they represent how they are represented here. It is your choice. Which do you prefer to focus for today? So if you're following along and looking at your own records in your own browser, I will probably focus on the current record because some of the metadata elements have become possible to capture more recently. However, this doesn't preclude you from completing them for older records. For example, the ROR IDs have only been around for I think about 6 or 7 years. But if you want to complete them for organizations for affiliations that you have captured before, this also is not impossible. But obviously you would need to do a bit of work yourself rather than capture it from the original author. So that's that. You can see the total number of records, and in fact, the total number is 12,000, almost 13,000 records now. But those, if you go, one of the things that changes probably most dramatically when you check between all time and current records is that number. So if you're not sure what you're looking at, you can check if those numbers are changing. They should be changing for your records as well. So this is that, and maybe I'll also go for a different example of a member. So MIT Press, I've looked at them up before. As you can see, they have more record types. So we can see book chapters, which only have quite scant coverage in terms of metadata. We can see books that benefit from more abstract metadata, but again, the other things are a little bare, which unfortunately we find is not that uncommon for books. There are conference proceedings in here with slightly more diverse coverage. And then we have the journal articles, which benefit from much richer metadata here. And we have oddly 4 preprints. So here we go. This is a different organization with completely different makeup of content types and clearly different priorities when it comes to capturing their metadata as well. So the next thing that is new in this report is the download your gap report. So for any Crossref member, like here you have the MIT Press, for any of the members, so specifically for yourself as well, you can download a gap report, which hopefully will be useful in allowing you to address some of those gaps. So for example, if I was looking from MIT Press and I was thinking, okay, well, I see that I only have ORCIDs for 27% of my current records. Which records are missing an ORCID ID? I can go to download a gap report. And as you can see here, you can select either to have all types of metadata, or if you want to focus on just one, which I've mentioned, we can maybe focus for the ease of operations here on ORCID IDs. You can only select that. You can select which content types you're interested in. I'm interested here in journal articles, and I'm only interested in the current journal articles. So for the last 2 years, I'm expecting that maybe those authors have been submitting their ORCID IDs, and it hasn't been, for whatever reason, fed into the system. And then you can click download your gap report, which will result in a CSV file listing all records that do not include an ORCID number. So that's that. And then once you download it, obviously you can open the file and see for yourself which particular DOI numbers are missing an ORCID number. And it also gives you a date of creation of that DOI. So perhaps if you were looking at batching updates or things like that, that could be of help as well. All right, so far so good. I am not seeing any questions yet in our chat. No questions so far. Can I get a wave of hands or some form of reaction in the chat to just see if you're following? Has this been clear? Yes, okay. I'm getting some shy thumbs up. Okay, so good. So we're still all on the same page. Uh, okay. Explaining the difference between the current record and all time. So the current records we consider current records anything from the last 2 full calendar years, plus whatever is of the current year as well. So at this point in time, current year would represent all of the records for all of 2024 and all of 2025, as well as whatever you might have covered already in 2026. So that is the current record. Okay, I'm hoping that this has addressed the question from Rana. Yes, and very important question from Vandana. The DOI record metadata records can be updated at any time. Updates are free forever. And we do encourage you, in fact, to update your records as often as the new information is becoming available, or as you might have a new technical capacity to be able to capture or record some of the metadata elements. So we'll talk probably most about references, abstracts, ORCID IDs, and affiliations today. I did try to emphasize that funding is also extremely important and is becoming more so. And obviously your URLs are potentially important as well for a number of reasons. One of them most a crude way of showing compliance, for example, with funders' mandates, is to provide the license URL for your publications, and in this way, in an automated way, if you have funder information and you have license information, then someone can create a dashboard to see if publications that they have funded are being made available under the license that they would have wished, for example, if they've stipulated a specific form of making content they fund available. All right, so references, why are they important? References are the lifeline of discoverability through Crossref. So they allow us to create the mutual relationships between the cited content and the citing content, and they are being displayed through they're being captured through the citation metrics, and they allow various different external tools to make those connections and help scientists find related content. Also, in the members' obligations, there is a mention of reference linking, which is when you provide references to provide the DOI numbers for those references that you have. So reference linking and providing references metadata are kind of two separate things. Reference linking is one of the obligations that allow us um, to display the DOIs as links in your references, but this provides the cited by element across the corpus. But the references that you submit in your reference metadata element, they may or may not be DOIs. If you have a DOI for them, please include it. And if you don't, then we might be able to still make those relationships over time available to the community. It's important to capture those references for the completeness of the metadata record. Okay, so we can now try and see how you can complete your metadata depending on what on what method of registration of your metadata that you're using. And if you could just put quickly in the chat what metadata, what registration method you're using, whether you're using OJS and which version of OJS you're using, or whether you're using a different tool like the Crossref Metadata Manager, or potentially some other, or maybe a XML uploads, that would be quite helpful. If you can drop it in the chat so we know uh, what is more prevalent. Okay, because I'm not seeing any of this, and because you probably, I'm not seeing any feedback on this. There's one person, deposit form, deposit form. Okay, so there's a lot of people using still the web deposit form. Uh, and in that case, I would like to invite Lewis to talk a little bit about the latest version, and there is an OJS as well. We'll talk about OJS in a second. So, web deposit form is brilliant, has been there for decades. But now we have created a new form which is replacing our former metadata manager because it provides the same functionality, but it is as easy to use as the web deposit form, and it captures far more, allows you to capture far more metadata elements. So what we'll do now, I'll stop sharing my screen. And Lewis will tell you a little bit about the new metadata manager, which has previously been advertised as a record registration form, but now with all the functionality around completing existing DOI records, it allows you to manage your records, and so it has replaced the former metadata manager, and is now, I think, our recommended tool because it captures far more metadata than you were able to capture with the web deposit form, which you can still use as you are, but this provides, I think, greater opportunities for completing your records.
All right, thank you very much. So yeah, as we were discussing, I'm going to show you this new tool that we are showcasing now with a couple of new features that you can start using to deposit journal articles and grants, and also to make updates if you have already deposited content with us, right? Uh, if you're using the web deposit form, you can still use that tool. This is not going to be a replacement in the short time, but this is a tool that we are building to basically to be more flexible, more modular, to be able to adapt to the needs of the community. So you will be seeing us probably showcasing this more and more in the future. You can already start using this by visiting manage.crossref.org. There you will see a login panel like this one. So you will need to have your credentials at hand to start using it, to testing it. If you don't, I will make an example. I will also do a live demonstration so you can see more or less what this is about. Um, so Basically, this tool will let you register content with us. At the moment, you have the possibility to deposit journal articles and funding metadata. And we are already working on the capacities to deposit book and book chapters. However, this is a work in progress. Uh, a couple of the new features, it's basically quality of life features that let you deposit metadata in a more easier manner. So for example, let's say, let's start with this specific example where you want to start depositing contribution affiliations. Now this is available as a drop-down list when you start typing, it will auto-complete your institution or the institution that you are including here based on what is available on the ROR registry. If it's not available there, you can still include your affiliation as a string of characters. And you can also consider just going to the ROR deposit and request including your affiliation. In any case, you will find here your institution if it's already on the ROR registry, and will be able to add it right away. Another interesting feature is that now you have the possibility to deposit abstracts in multiple language at the same time. You will find this box of text when you can just copy and paste or just type directly your abstract, and you can specify the language of the text that you're adding. And if you can see here at the top, sorry, at the bottom right, there is this button that says Add New. It basically lets you add a new abstract, which is basically the translated form of the text that you just added. Oh, I have a question here. Okay, sorry. Uh, then, as I was discussing before, funding metadata. This is extremely important for all of this extra layer of context that we add to the scholarly record. So you can specify here institutions that have funded the work that you are depositing with us. Uh, with now the addition that you can also deposit institutions that are part of the ROR registry. So in this specific example, you can see that you can type the Welcome Trust organization, and then it will be automatically matched to the ROR ID. And of course, you can still have the possibility to add the award numbers here in this text box, and of course, adding multiple funders if this is the case for your record. This is an important difference, for example, with the availability of or the possibilities that the OJS plugin lets you do it, because at the moment, if I'm correct, it lets you only deposit funders that are part of the funder registry, not necessarily everything that is in ROR. So you will see that this is more flexible. And of course, references, as we were discussing before in the participation report, you will see here a text box that lets you add all of your references. Here is important you take a couple of considerations in terms of format. The most important one is that each reference should be occupying a single line. Uh, and the reason for this is that when you click next here, it will be automatically matched to the references that we have in our system. So it will be basically connected to the reference linking system. So if you have references occupying more than one line, probably it can get the system cannot perfectly match the reference that we have in our system. So in principle, this covers all of the basic functionalities, but I'm going to show a live example. Hopefully, can you confirm that you can still see my screen instead of the presentation?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So once you log in with your credentials, this is the screen that you will find. Uh, I'm going to make the specific example of editing a record because so if I select new record, it would be just repeating what I just showed you in the screen captures. Uh, so one of the first things, and this was a highly requested feature, is that so you can find all of your DOI lists that you have deposited with different tools in the system. If you don't see a specific DOI, you can just use this search box to find a specific DOI. You should be able to retrieve it. And then it will show you the form with all of the information already pre-filled in. So in this case, you can see we have an article title, an article DOI, our landing page, and then we have some metadata. This is specifically incomplete just for the sake of this example. So we can add our specific data. We can update any field that we want. We can specify our ORCID if we have it. As I was saying here, we can start, for example, typing our institution. We can type, for example, University of, and it will show you basically the list of everything that is available out there in the ROR registry. The abstracts, as I was saying, you can just copy and paste here your text, and then you can specify the language. And then you can just copy and paste another block of text and then specify the secondary language if it's relevant. The dates, very simple, the publications online and the publication in print. And then here you will find the boxes I was describing who was funding the organization. So let's use the same example. So if I type, uh, it should be, well, actually, yeah, if you start typing, you will find different organizations that you can choose. You can also add the specific award number here and add additional institutions that will be displayed like so. Uh, so here, is there a field that cannot be edited once the registration is complete? In principle, no, because we assume that if there is perhaps, for example, something that you want to correct, sometimes the title is wrong. Well, if the article DOI is not modifiable, this is fixed. So just make sure that you are not editing this. In principle, if you try to modify this, you will get an error. However, all of the other metadata should be uh, you should have the capacity to update them. For example, article landing page is something that is often broken when systems are doing migrations between different servers or between different installations of their content management system. So you can also update this. So as I was saying, you can add multiple funders here, also specifying their award numbers. If you have license metadata specific to your content, you can also specify here this. Uh, and then this is a new feature that we haven't showed before. So you can also add here the types of relationships that you have between your different content. So for example, let's say at the moment, the number of relationship types is limited. We will start increasing this in the future, but you can see here a couple of examples of the most commonly used. So, for example, let's say that so Cora was showing us before an organization that deposits both journal articles and also preprints, right? So, for example, you could just come here and declare that this specific DOI that I deposited before, and then I'm updating now has a preprint. And now I can declare the specific DOI of the preprint. So uh, this will make it much easy to be able to find it and to declare these connections in our API. And of course, you can also declare the complementary relationship. So, for example, this one has a preprint, but you should be able to see is preprint of
Well,
somewhere.
once the form has been extended to accept preprints, you will be able to do that as well.
Exactly.
But because it only captures journal articles or grants at the moment, that's what you're able to present.
Precisely. But as you can see, you can also establish relationships between translations, between different versions of the record. For example, if you have supplementary data or other kinds of supplements, you can also declare them here. There are a couple of situations where the same record is deposited across different organizations for different reasons. So you can specify that those two are identical. Or for example, if you have works that are part of a series, you can declare that one is continued by others and so on and so forth. And of course, you can also declare multiple relationships as part of the same process. And as I was saying here, you have the field where you can start specifying your list of references, which will be automatically matched to what we have available in our system once you deposit this. So let's say that we are happy with the modifications that we are doing to this test record. We will click next. And then here, for example, let's assume that we need to do a couple of modifications to multiple records from the same issue or the same journal. So you can just find your journal here and it will auto-complete the information that we have available. So for example, if you have already declared in the past online ISSN, it will be auto-completed here. You should be able to find the title of the journal. If it has the abbreviated version, it should also appear here. Someone was asking about crossmark, I believe, in the chat before. So, for example, this is where you can specify the policy page related to your journal. If you want, if it's relevant, you can also include, for example, issue metadata. So you can declare when was the issue online, the number, also the number of the, sorry, the volume number. And before you submit anything, you will see a review just to make sure that you are happy with the content that you are updating. If not, you can just click back and previous and then just modify whatever you need. And then once you are happy, you can just simply click submit and it will just send this to our system. And then you can just go back and start either a new deposit or update a new record. So this is a brief showcase of the current functionalities of the new metadata manager. Just go and test it. Let us know if it's working for you. Please remember that this is working now only for journal articles and funding metadata. However, we will be expanding the functionalities in the near future. And I would like to know if you have questions about this.
There was one question, but I think that was made relatively clear about whether how it relates to crossmark. Unfortunately, the crossmark metadata is not yet available in the metadata manager.
Yeah, that's correct. At the moment, you can only include the policy page. However, that means that you already have to have either, well, not either. In your website, you should have a public policy page about how you are going to handle updates and in general update metadata. And then you should also be sure that you have deposited this policy page with us as one of the steps to start you implementing Crossmark. I will find the documentation here so I can share it with you.
Okay. Uh, One advantage of the metadata manager that is pertinent to our meeting today over other options is that it does allow you um, to edit an existing record. So you don't need to rely on a resource up or an XML resource uploads, for example. But you can find a record that was created in either via this metadata manager, or if I think also by the web deposit form, you should be able to find it in this tool and edit the metadata. So you should be able to update metadata fields for example, for things that aren't possible to capture with the web deposit form.
Yeah. Also, OJS is findable there.
Excuse me. Thank you. Yes. So, and it's important for OJS because there are also some relationships that you might have been submitting via OJS. If for those of you who are using it, I could see that there was some people talking about OJS as well. For example, affiliation metadata that you would have put in the OJS before. So in 3.3 or 3.4 version of OJS, that relationship would not have been, unfortunately, given to Crossref. It would remain in OJS, but it would never be transferred over to your metadata record in Crossref. This has been amended in OJS 3.5, along other many improvements to this software. So if you're using OJS, I would very strongly encourage you to consider upgrading to the version 3.5. It's going to be the long supported version in the coming weeks. I think they're just gearing for making it the long-term support version now. But I already encourage you to switch to OJS 3.5 if you possibly can, because it will allow you to submit more relationships in metadata through to Crossref. A journal which does not have an ISSN uh, can deposit metadata. Sorry, Lavoisier. I'm not sure if this is about specifically any specific tool or in general. If you could make it more precise, because I think there are some uh, limitations in that regard. whilst we're waiting for Lavoisier, Vandana has another question. Would it be possible to cover how DOIs can be registered for blog posts? The blog post made by my institution doesn't fall under any of the fields in the web deposit form. Um, Interesting. So, actually, I'm afraid that would be what I would need to recommend. The web deposit form would be the most appropriate tool because where blog posts would be considered posted content. So they are, in that sense, they would be similar to preprints. And so blog posts can be registered by the web deposit form as posted content, or potentially, if you're using SML uploads, that can also be for any record type. Okay, in general. Um, I remember there was a limitation, and you wouldn't be able to necessarily submit register your content if you didn't have an ISSN number via the metadata manager. I'm just checking if that has been if this is changing. Um, so I'm waiting for my colleague who's working on developing the tool to answer that question for me, and we'll be back to you shortly on that. Why some of the registered DOIs through web deposit form don't result as registered even if the XML report contains their metadata? Interesting. Interesting. So, uh, I would be surprised if uh, the registered DOIs through the web deposit don't result as registered. Um, if there was no error record, if there was no error message or report, then I would be no error message. Okay. Sometimes the DOI record might not be registered immediately. There might be a delay, but I'm not quite sure if this is what you, Christiana, sorry, if this is what Christiana is referring to. You say that you have discovered the problem using the GAP report. Christiana, would you like to unmute to tell us a little more about that? Yes. Okay. Let me see if I can allow you to speak to us. Allow to talk. Okay. You should be able to unmute and tell us
Yes.
more
Can you
about your
hear
problem.
me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. We are using deposit for a web deposit form, and we always try to register all the article of an issue in a one-time registration. And we have a master list in an Excel file where we put the registration and check with the XML that we received at the end. And matching it with the gap report, we see that sometimes very little, like 5 or 6 on the total of our registration. The DOI doesn't function as if it's not activated. But now I ask you, can I re-register this DOI, try again to register it, or how I can fix this problem?
This is interesting. To be perfectly honest with you, Christiana, I think we will need to take this to our technical support team.
Okay, if you can write an email, I
Mhm.
will try to explain it better, writing to you and giving you some example. Can I do so?
Yes, an
Yes.
example would be really helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Really, thank you.
In fact, in the chat, you can provide an example DOI number, so we can start with that,
Okay. Okay.
and that would be a good start because it might not be necessarily about updating your metadata, and we need to find out where what is the problem kind of starting from, why are they not active?
Okay. I will write it an example in the chat. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
excellent. Thank you. So if you're using web deposit form, that is why I am not sure because I know that in Node.js, for example, you sometimes need to republish your content once you make an update to your metadata for that to become live and kind of transferred over to Crossref. But in the web deposit form, I am not sure exactly where this error might stem from. So if you can provide us with an example DOI that has this problem, that would be helpful. In terms of yeah, okay. So I've been typing a response to Lavoisier as well. So then, just to make it clear, it is I was right. So in the metadata manager, if your journal doesn't yet have a ISSN, you wouldn't be able to use that tool to register your first articles. However, you can use the web deposit form for that because it doesn't require an ISSN. But I would still encourage you, once you have registered enough articles to gain an ISSN number, I would encourage you to switch to using the metadata manager because it will allow you to capture much richer metadata over time. Okay, we've got an example from Christiana, so we'll be in touch with you after this session as well. Thank you. All right. So I have promised that I will also mention about updating records in OJS. So thank you very much for patience for anyone who was waiting for that until now. Let me go quickly through a few slides here. So as you can see, we do those kind of presentations, by the way, specifically for OJS users. In a couple of months' time, there will be a dedicated session, and you can see on our website if to find the time that was more appropriate for your time zone. Excuse me. But if future and existing articles can be existed, so you need to make sure that you that you enable and configure the necessary plugins. That is the first step to make sure that you can update your records or register them in the first place. You need to obviously find the existing article in your OJS instance that you want to change or update metadata for. You need to, as I said, you need to unpublish the article temporarily, make the changes to the metadata, and then republish the article. So that was what I referred to just a second ago. And this might take up to 24 hours to be reflected in your participation report for all the, for the data to kind of catch up in our records as well. So for example, here, if you want to put references metadata into your OJS published article, you'll find in your workflows the metadata and enable references metadata plugin. And then once configured, this will be what it looks like. So we can provide a references list in your OJS for the article. Yep, so there is a separate Crossref reference linking plugin that enables you making the kind of automated extraction of DOIs, and it also allows you to display reference lists on the article landing pages. So similarly for abstracts, is an existing field in OJS. So you can preview the abstracts and you don't need any specific additional plugins if you have the Crossref plugin. Author metadata, you can also edit that to add your ORCID, affiliations, and ROR IDs for those affiliations. In the contributor section, you can edit any one of those, and you can add, as you can see, there's a field for adding an ORCID number for the author, and it will then provide an automated message to the author. They can agree for having that article automatically displayed on their ORCID number. So we call it we call it an auto update, but it requires the author's consent to be displayed on their profile. And in a similar fashion, you can add an affiliation to it's an existing field. You can add more than one. And we encourage you to use the ROR IDs for that because they help us disambiguate the institutions, and it is then the most accurate information available. The ROR plugin collects and displays the ROR IDs for other affiliations on article pages. So you can also consider using the ROR plugin for that. And this is what I've mentioned. Unfortunately, in the previous versions of the OJS, the affiliations and ROR IDs have not been included in the in the XML output, so they don't appear in DOI metadata and will not be captured in Crossref Participation Reports. If you wish to complete that information, well, you can always switch to the OJS 3.5 and edit all of your article metadata from there. Or if for whatever reason you're not able to switch to the latest OJS version as yet, you can still use the metadata manager, as Louis mentioned, and find your OJS records there and add affiliation metadata or any other metadata that is being captured by that tool that hasn't been provided through 3.3 or 3.4 OJS. And finally, the funding metadata, which is, as I said, increasingly important. And specifically for OJS users, it's missing very often. So if you are an OJS user, I would venture you might not be adding that metadata to your records. And as I said, it is becoming increasingly important. So you can go to funding data, which is a specific part of the panel, and add a funder to your DOI records. A funder, you can find the funder name or the the funder name or the identification. You can use a ROR ID or you can use the funder registry IDs. Any of the three is fine, but please use at least one to mention it. And if you have grant numbers, please include it in grant numbers as well. More and more funders are registering their grants with Crossref for Crossref grant IDs. And those are specific DOIs for grants. If you have those for the moment, again, please include them in the grant number section in the OJS. At Crossref, we have now included a new field in our schema specifically for grant DOIs. But this has not yet been included in any of the registration methods. So for the moment, you will still need to include grant DOIs as grant numbers, and in the future, which are a non-standardized field. So any grant numbers can be included here. They don't need to be DOIs, but increasingly you will be able to capture DOIs in this way. And in the future, we're hoping that there's going to be a dedicated field for grant DOIs as well. So I think that is all that was included in this presentation about how to improve your metadata records. I will stop sharing this. Okay. Avandana is struggling with finding the posted content field in the web deposit form. So I think, given that we are at time, perhaps we should we'll send some screenshot by email, Vandana, to make sure that to support you with registering your blog posts as you wished. Oh, the orchids, how they can be automatically displayed. If they are captured in your metadata record, the authors will receive an alert message about the fact that that the publication has been made with their orchid number, and they need to click that they consent, and at that point, it will automatically display on their orchid profile. So you don't need to do anything. If you capture the ORCID ID, there is an automation that allows the authors to accept the article or whatever other publication to be displayed in their profile number. All right, thank you very much. Yes, there will be a recording of this session. I believe they are all added to our YouTube channel. But you will, since you have registered for the session, you will also receive the recording in due time, I believe, in the next few days. All right, thank you so much. Apologies for going over time. I'm hoping that at least some of your questions have been addressed, and obviously, please reach out if there is any more support that we can provide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.